All right. So good to see everyone here this evening. We're super excited to welcome Haley Rains to our major exploration speaker series tonight. I will introduce Haley in a moment, but right now I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we want to make this a discussion. So if you have a question or a comment, please feel free to either raise your hand to your camera, or you can use a reaction button, or just type something in the chat. So we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, Haley. Haley is joining us from California tonight. She is an enrolled member of the Muskogee Creek Nation of Oklahoma. She has worked as a professional photographer for over 13 years. She began her career as a concert photographer in her hometown of Billings, Montana. Her portfolio includes concert photography of bands such as Nine Inch Nails, Buck Cherry, Avenged Sevenfold, Puddle of Mud, Theory of a Dead Man, Shinedown, and many more. Haley's portfolio also includes Native American powwows and ceremonial gatherings. After briefly attending film school in Bozeman, Montana, Haley went on to work in the film industry as an intern production assistant, then advancing as an IMDb credited second assistant director. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Indigenous and American Indian Studies that she earned from Haskell. She is currently working on her PhD in Native American Studies with an emphasis on visual sovereignty at the University of California, Davis. She centers her research on Native American self-representation in photography and film. Haley also is an associate instructor at UC Davis and teaches Native American literature and intro to Native American studies. Haley, welcome back to Haskell. It's so good to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So, just to get started, I think that we know that everyone in the room that's on the call is currently in a program or has declared a major. But for those that might be watching the recording, let's just talk about how you decided on your major at Haskell. Like what things are experienced in or things that you experienced at Haskell might have influenced your decision, or did you have a career goal in mind when you already got here? And obviously your bio, you've done some work prior before you got to Haskell. So just take us kind of through your thought process and how you kind of connected that with a major.
Yeah, definitely. So before I came to Haskell, as you mentioned, I went to film school and I left film school and started working on films. But then I decided to return and finish my bachelor's degree. So I came to Haskell. Initially I was going to study business at Haskell. I've, owned and operated my own photography business for a long time. So it was sort of a natural choice for me at that time. But when I started learning about Haskell's, fascinating history, and then, experiencing a lot of the really inspiring instructors at Haskell, and then seeing and listening to a lot of the really cool guest speakers, I really started to feel like American Indian Studies, or IAIS, was a really wonderful stepping stone to a variety of graduate programs, whether that's business or law or social work, so forth. So, I determined pretty early on, once I decided to go the IAIS route, that I wanted to go to law school. So I took a lot of, kind of pre-law classes, prep courses and things like that. And then I went to PLSI, which is the Pre-Law Summer Institute in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and it's for law students or pre-law students, Native American law students. And I really feel like my experience at Haskell and my IAIS degree really helped me and prepared me to go to PLSI, just because I had a really strong foundation in federal Indian law and history of federal Indian policy. And then, my understanding of tribal sovereignty. I really got all of that as an undergraduate at Haskell, in the IAIS department. So that was a really big deal. And then, after that, I went to the University of Kansas. Went to law school there for a short time before deciding that wasn't what I wanted to do after all. And I was more interested in sort of the scholarship aspect of graduate school than I was the actual professional practice of law. So then I actually went into a master's program in Native American Studies at the Montana State University. And then I applied and got accepted to the program I'm in now, which is the PhD in Native American Studies at UC Davis. So, all of which is to say that my IAIS degree really prepared me for several different career paths. And it was really my challenge to decide which one I wanted to follow, and what really made me happy. So if you're anything like me, you have to try a few things before you figure out what works for you. But ultimately, it was really my IAIS degree from Haskell that allowed me to do all that I did.
Thank you. So that's really cool. That brings up some really interesting points, especially for students who are in this space right now. Like maybe they're just getting into college and there's so many different things that they want to do, but not sure the path to get there. And just listening to you, what you've talked about, I mean, that's a very diverse path, right? You started out with the film and then went into American Indian Studies and then went to law school. So I think that it's important to point out that students don't have to feel like they're locked into one single thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's more ways to get from point A to point B, even if you do have to try out several different things for sure. So let's talk a little bit about the things that you're passionate about and how you used your Haskell degree and Haskell experience to kind of develop those passions into a career path.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, so, as you mentioned in my bio, my interest is really in visual sovereignty, which is basically like Native American self-representation in media and in film and in popular culture. So, I'm really interested in exploring how film and photography can be used to cultivate Indigenous autonomy and self-efficacy, and how we can use art to empower Native people, right? So, as a photographer and filmmaker, and with my bachelor's degree from Haskell, I was really able to pave a unique path for myself. And I was able to combine that Native Studies scholarship with what I'm really passionate about, which is my film and photography. Um, and the other really wonderful thing about the IAS degree is that it encompasses so many different disciplines. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, within IAIS, you can focus on art or music or history or law, environmental justice, film, photography. I mean, there's so many different things. The options are really endless. And so I think having that freedom at Haskell to explore those different routes, for me was just it was really special, and it was a gift, and it ultimately helped me create something very unique to my needs.
Was there any like one particular class that you took that you found that kind of clicked in your head like, okay, well, I've done photography and I'll probably continue that, but now I think I'm going to go this way. Like I know you mentioned that you said that you started taking law classes. Like, was there some kind of thing that happened that made you go, oh, I want to get into law now?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. It's definitely, I think there's like literally a federal Indian law class, if I'm not mistaken, that I took in Haskell. Um, that has, through obviously law, but also just Native American studies in general, that has been a really foundational course. I was able to grasp the concept of sovereignty, which is huge. And that's something that constantly appears in Native American studies, especially as you move into graduate school. So that was a big thing for me. But also just like I think I took like a native philosophy and religion class with Dan Wildcat, Dr. Wildcat, who's awesome. So that was definitely super inspirational for me. So I think it was really just a combination of all these different experiences and disciplines getting thrown at you. It's really a treat, and I think that's kind of how I kind of again kind of created my own unique path.
Well, it's unique that you mentioned sovereignty because, and now, like, when you take those law classes and you learn foundationally how important sovereignty is, and then how you were able to connect that, like, okay, well, I want to go to law school and I want to turn that into a career in the practice of law, but you've kind of turned it around into a scholarship when you
Mhm.
talked about scholarship, and now you're on this path about visual sovereignty. So all of those pieces kind of connected together and combined to where you're at right now. So what advice would you have for students who are not sure about their major, like maybe some of the key experiences or events that helped move you forward to some of the decisions that you made for your future and future plans?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. Yeah, I think again, I think the most important thing is to explore your options. Um, if you're still undecided, take electives in different departments. Experience those different offerings because it creates such a unique educational experience for yourself that you really can draw from later. And the other thing I would say too is if you can try to work backwards, like try to figure out where it is ultimately that you want to be, and then kind of figure out the steps that you need to take in order to get there. If it's law, that's awesome. Find out the pre-law classes that you need to take. You know what I mean? Reach out to people that are in that profession. I think that's the really cool thing about Haskell is there are so many different resources. So for example, I definitely took advantage of reaching out to KU Law when I was interested in going there. I think that they're really excited and eager to help Haskell students. And I think that if after pursuing something for a while, if you decide that it's ultimately not what you want to do, that's totally okay. Keep searching, keep looking. For me, obviously, it was um, a lot of different things that I had to try out to figure out what it is that I really wanted to do. But I think it just comes down to being open to it.
Yeah, that's such a great point, especially with Haskell's tuition costs, right? Like if I don't know what your experience is now with the students that you're instructing, but they don't probably get that luxury as to have an opportunity to take different electives. Like I always tell students, you have this opportunity at KU, you know, maybe try to go outside your comfort zone and take something that's just completely off the rails at KU. Delilah, do you want to say anything about that? I know that are taking a language at KU, and I don't know how that necessarily plays into your major, or if any other student wants to talk about what their experience has been in deciding what they want to do for a major. Anybody want to say anything about that?
I'll say some. Uh, I think from a very young age, I've already known what career that I wanted to do. Um, but kind of like what you said with, taking kind of different, going out of your comfort zone and taking different things to see what you're good at. I I know for a long time my family had wanted me to be an architect. It's because I'm good at math and I'm okay with drawing for long periods of times. And I thought that was cool because now I have made the blueprints for them to build their house at home. But it's not something that I'm like, I don't want to do that for a career. It's too stationary for me. But I know for sure that I've always wanted to be like a filmmaker. So I'm doing the media communications course here at Haskell. but I'm also taking classes at KU because once I transfer over there, I'll be dual majoring with film and media and in linguistics. So I've already taken a film course at KU, which was really, really great. I really liked my instructor. And I think he was the only one that I could talk to. And he would really understand how my mind is working and what I was really, learning. And then in my language class, I think it opened so many things because the more I learned about linguistics and the different specialties that there are, and kind of learning that it's not just speaking like oral language. There's the different types of languages, and I don't know. I think just like doing that and really branching out of your comfort zone really helps you with meeting new people, and it's really nice because now I'm in my second semester of learning Korean, and I think it's really interesting because you really learn how people are once you kind of just go out.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Haley, did you have anyone at Haskell that maybe kind of mentored you at all and helped you get connected with the law school, or was that something that you were able just to kind of take on yourself?
A little bit of both. I would honestly say so many of my instructors were helpful and supportive, and um, certainly worked with Dr. Wildcat. He was very supportive. Let's see. Angela, she taught in like the environmental justice. I can't remember her last name. I forgot her last name. But she, what is her last name? She had the Anatolian Shepherd, the dog. Do you remember?
No, was it
She had
Melinda?
two last
Was it
names.
Melinda?
No. You know what? It's funny because we actually did not cross paths at the same time. It's kind of amazing that we didn't. But no, I can't remember her name. It was two last names, but she was amazing. She was super helpful. I worked with Josh Arce a lot. I don't think he's there anymore, but he was super helpful for me. So I think it's really, again, people are eager to help, and so I think you just have to talk to people and network and reach out. And then the other thing I was going to say too, I really, Delilah, I really appreciate that you have such a diverse range of interests, because I think that sometimes in academia, we tend to think that things are sort of mutually exclusive. But as I'm sort of evidence that you can bring all of those things together, right? And leverage your experiences with those things, right? So you can apply for a film scholarship or a class or a job and say, by the way, I can help build film sets because I know architecture. You know what I mean? Bring it all together. I think that's one of the most valuable things, is just learning to leverage your gifts and your skills, and find a way to make them work, because it's, I'm evidence that it's possible.
Right. And that's so true because like I know my own kids when they were in college had a really hard time declaring their major because of they had such a wide variety of interests and being in touch with multidisciplinary avenues. Like one of the students that I went to Haskell with was in the AIS program, but took numerous classes in the environmental science and also took several business classes, because they really wanted to have a multitude of skills to rely on no matter what career they decided to go into. So, I think that's very important. I mean, and Delilah is a good example of that too, because we have media communications and film and language and linguistics. And so hopefully,
And cosplay and crafting and sticker making.
so both of you are really
Perfect.
good examples of how you can just merge all of those things together and, you know, make something
Yeah.
out of them in different ways. So, and I think that's a big fear for students. Students are like, if I take business, then I'm locked into that.
Mhm.
And you don't
Mhm.
have to be. Yeah, for sure.
No, I think you're totally right. I think there's a lot of freedom. If if graduate school is the goal, I think really any of the majors at Haskell are great for that. I have people in my department here at UC Davis that are studying, performance within Native American studies, environmental justice, music, arts. I mean, so it's really, I guess that's why I like the AIS degree, is because again, you can really be really specific in what route you take with that, and you can also be really broad. So I think there's a lot of freedom in that. But yeah, I think the more experiences you can get in, I think it makes you stronger. And even when those things seem like they're not really related, you'd be surprised at how much it comes in handy.
I'm wondering how many people asked you when you were in the AIS program, what are you going to do with that? Did anybody be like, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to be an activist?
People still ask me that. So yeah, that never really that never really stops.
I remember Julia Goodfox saying, when people ask you that, you tell them everything. I can do anything with that degree. You're absolute proof that that's true, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
totally. Yeah, whatever I want to do.
I'll do everything.
That's right. That's right. And you really can. It's not an exaggeration. You really can. It's the cool thing about it. So many different directions. And it's such an interdisciplinary degree. And that's what I've really enjoyed being here at Davis. I work a lot with the film department. So I teach in the film department as well. I've worked on films. I mean, I have mentors in the film department here. So again, it's that AIS degree was such a great foundation to build from.
Right, right. So where did you think that you would be where you're at now when you were at Haskell? Like, everybody tries to, you say, well, you need to lay some goals down and you had the whole law school goal. And so, I mean, I feel like that when you deviate from or you feel like that you set these goals and then there's some deviation from those goals, like students are freaked out, like, oh my gosh, this didn't go as I planned. And honestly, it sounds to me like from your story that you don't really have that much to fear in that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was one of those students, and I'm not gonna say that it wasn't hard. It's hard to invest all of your time and preparation and think that you're going one way in life, and then it turns out that you're going a different direction. But I don't panic. Keep your head, keep going. Listen to your needs, listen to what makes you happy. At the end of the day, your passion and your interests, they matter. And those are ultimately going to be the things that sustain you through difficult times, right? Everyone has to have their North Star. They have to have that thing that they hold on to that guides them. And so, yeah, there are certainly going to be times in school and your education where you feel like you're going to hit a wall and you don't really know where to go. Keep moving. But that's also true in life too. You have to keep moving. Think on your feet and stay positive, and you'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's such great advice. Thank you so much. Delilah, you have your hand up.
Yeah. I have some good advice for anybody that's like a freshman starting in college, because I didn't decide to go to college until I was 22. And it originally, in school, in high school, I was always like the one that really focused on my studies. I really wanted to make sure I was going to go to college. I didn't want to play any sports because my siblings had that all planned out for themselves, and I wanted to be different. But the 2 weeks before graduation of high school, that completely derailed, and it scared me from ever stepping foot inside of any counselor's office, because I was just told I wasn't going to graduate because I was missing one credit. And I was like, when did this happen? And you know, my counselor was just like, it's your fault, you didn't come in, it's your fault, it's your fault. I was like, I'm a child, I have no control over this situation, you're supposed to help me. So I got really upset, and I didn't want to go into a high school or any kind of school for that matter. I had a lot of anxiety about it. And then finally, I think it was, my mom was like, nope, you're going to school. She was like, don't even, you're going to go to school. You're better than this. You're smarter than this. Just go to school. You know, you can finish it. And I did. I took online classes at my, like on the reservation at the high school. And I finished in 6 days instead of taking a whole semester out of my life. And I was like, oh my gosh, I actually did that. And immediately right after, my sister just told me, all right, you got to apply for Haskell. And I said, no, I'm not going to go to Haskell. She used to work at Haskell. She used to be the volleyball coach. So she was like, just go to Haskell. It's a great opportunity. It's cheap, and you can get an AA degree for everything you want. But during that time, it was in the mindset of everybody saying, you should be an architect. You should go to business school. You should do this. And I'm like, you're all telling me to do something that I don't want to do. It's not in my passion. It's not something I would really work hard for. And that's going to suck for spending all that money. So I said no. And I waited about 4 years before going back to, you know, going to further my education. And I really put my foot down for once. And I said, if I'm going to go to college, it's on my major, my terms. It's the way I want to go, because I'm not going to work hard for it if I don't. And you know, being at Haskell, there have been some bumps in the road where I've lost a lot of like creativity or any of my passions for anything that I was doing. But I think it's mostly because it's a learning process of being in the real world, of really working in group settings and really getting to know people you don't know. They're from everywhere. And I think, like, you know, doing Haskell seminar, I thought it was such a dumb thing in the beginning, but I ended up being happy I took it, you know, getting to hear all of the opportunities, you know, all the scholarship opportunities, all the internships, like being able to go to KU and taking classes for a really cheap cost, which not a lot of people take advantage of. And, you know, now being really close to getting my AA, I'm just like, I'm almost there. I actually am almost about to do this. And I think it's just really cool and exciting. I think people should, you know, not worry about their first semester if it fails or anything, because right after like that, after I got through that first semester, I was so happy, because I was like, I'm doing this. This is kind of cool. And then, you know, I mean, the pandemic hit and I had to go online, but that was a whole other thing. So yeah, I think it was pretty cool.
Right. So, and a student has put in the chat. Am I on? Yes, I'm on. Always have to look and see if I'm muted or not. A student has put in the chat, I let peer pressure steer me away from pursuing nursing, but believe now that I have a good goal to become a neurosurgeon, and only other things I consider were mathematics and acting, but not really good, not really good paying professions. So I know that that's also a lot that students think about too, is how viable or sustainable maybe some of their choices will be. But again, like you had said, Haley, that it's so important to focus on what you're passionate about, because that's really what will sustain you through anything, no matter whether you or not that you think that you've made the right decision or wrong decision, and that has to change your trajectory. So yeah, thanks for that comment, Christian. Kaya, did you have you had your hand raised?
Yeah, sorry, my phone keeps falling. Um, so you said like going different routes and like changing, like you tried like the law school, but then you changed your mind about it. How do you change your mind quickly, or like not worrying about like being able to pay for it, or like going into debt, whether or not like you can finish?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's yeah, it's huge. There's so much at stake, right? Finances, relationships. I mean, it's a huge commitment. It's a huge sacrifice sacrifice to get an education. It's a big deal, and so it's not easy. It's not easy to invest your time in one profession or one goal, and find out that that's not what you want to do. But the other thing is you have to do something that you can live with. And so if at the end of the day you're just unhappy or you're miserable or it's not what you thought it was going to be, unless you're really passionate about doing that thing and you're just certain that's your calling and that's where you're meant to be, it's really hard to stay in it. So I can just use myself as an example. Being in law school, I never craved being creative more than that time in my life. I literally was starving for creativity. And so you have to listen to those messages. You have to listen to yourself. And so for me, it was a huge decision to walk away from it. It was devastating in a lot of ways. But you keep your head, you keep your cool. You have to do the hard work to find another way out, whether if you have to move, if it's taking out student loans and kind of being like, well, that was a bust. At the end of the day, you have to be okay with that decision. And so it was a difficult one for me. But when I realized that it was possible to do what it is that I really wanted to do, and really what I wanted to do the whole time I was in law school, which was create and be a scholar, and make art and teach. It turns out I love teaching, and I had no idea. So I think that there's always going to be that uncertainty, and there's always going to be that sacrifice, and you're going to have to take that leap if that's what you want to do. I think that's always true. But you got to have faith that it's going to work out, and you hit the ground running when you get to where your next stop. You work your butt off, and you hope for the best. And I think at the end of the day, that's all we can ever really do. But it's scary. I'm not going to say that it's not. But I just wanted to say really quickly to Delilah, your story is so amazing, and I'm so proud of you, and that's so cool. And I think that when you have those little successes, it builds that self-efficacy. If I can do this and I've succeeded at this, then I have full confidence in myself that I can go do something else and I can accomplish something else, even bigger or more ambitious. And I think it helps to see other people doing it too. And I think that that's something that's really special about Haskell too, is you're surrounded by a lot of people who've done it and are doing it, and you have access to that. So, reach out to those people. But yeah, no, I think that's your experience is so inspiring, and those are all really good questions.
Yeah, I think that students get stuck in a mindset of, because we're in this space where if we don't go to Haskell, if we maybe decide to go to grad school or go to a different college to transfer to, Haskell does only have 4 degrees. And so if you want to do journalism or nursing or something in the health field, even, that you're not going to be able to fully realize that there. But I think what the example that we have in front of us today with Haley is that there you can pull in all of those experiences and use all of those, the law experience, the AIS, the film experience, photography experience, that will get you to where you need to be or where you want to be in your career or in your life. So it's not really a total bust, because you'll be able to use those things at some point, no matter what career path that you choose, right? So, even if it is a health field or something that seems so far removed from your original path, that those things can always be utilized in some way. So for instance, I will also have a media communications degree, and I have an AIS degree, and then now I end up working in education. I did the HERS internship, and that's environmental science, but I've used bits and pieces of those now and I'm so, so grateful for that. And then I was also going to bring up the finance thing. Like when I was advising students at KU, they have a big bill there. Like they are students that come from the demographic of students that we service in Trio are constantly conscious about what this is going to cost me and how much loans am I going to have to take. And we're constantly telling students, do not do everything you can not to, and do not take out a student loan. But the thing about that is that it is such a huge investment in your future. You know, like if you are trying to get into a career path that you're passionate about and you're taking all these twists and turns, and then you find yourself having to take out student loans, I don't feel like students should really beat themselves up over that. I mean, because it's really just an investment in what you want to do. Like, I don't want to get up every morning, and I'm sure Haley feels the same way, or anybody on this Zoom feels like, why do I want to get up in the morning and be like, oh God, I have to go to work. I can't wait till it's Friday. Like, oh, the whole world is in that space, and I don't want to be in it. And I don't think anybody here or at Haskell wants to be in it. You just want to do what you're passionate about, and you just need to figure out how to get there. So there's really no wrong ways to do that, even if you do find yourself on different paths, right?
Yeah. I mean, student loans, everyone has them. It's almost unavoidable at this. It's a crisis in our country. It's a real thing. So, you know, I'm not advocating for you to go out and get a bunch of debt, but I have it. Everyone I know has it. So don't let that deter you. You know, there'll come a time where you can make payments on it. And, you know, I wouldn't let that stop you from pursuing what you want to do. And then a lot of times in a lot of cases, it's really necessary. You need that support and you need that financial stability. You know, and then one of the most valuable things that I've learned and that I, you know, keep trying to perfect is applying for scholarships and applying for fellowships. That should be, as soon as you can, make that a really big part of your educational experience. Get good at it, especially if you're going into graduate school. Yeah, just start now. Learn how to do it. Do it a lot. Apply to everything. You're not always going to get it, so you also have to learn how to be okay with rejection and not getting things. But I think that's the more skilled you can become at that, the more useful that's going to be.
Yeah, that's great advice. Does anybody else have any questions or anything before we look at some of Haley's work? I'm trying to see if there's any other hands up, but I don't. Haley, do you want to share some of your work with us? And so we can look and see how
Definitely.
great you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. Let me, I will share my screen. And then I can also put my website in the chat if anyone wants to look at it later. So yeah, give me 1 second. I'm gonna turn my camera off because it gets a little confusing. So give me. Okay, so yeah, these are some of my photos. I did a lot of really cool work with Haskell students and took a lot of really cool photos at, you know, Haskell powwows. These are the Baker wetlands here to the right. Again, here's some more. Can you guys see that okay? Does it look all right? Okay.
Oh, those are gorgeous.
Thank you. So this one is at the Sunshine Gathering, which happens every year for Indigenous Peoples Day in San Francisco. So this is on Alcatraz Island. So that was really cool. That's the San Francisco skyline. Yeah, it was pretty epic. There's another shot of Alcatraz there to the right. So yeah, lots of portrait photography. That's definitely one of my favorites. Oh, look who's there. Is that Lori Hasselman?
Where? But I'm the one with the horse, right? Oh no.
This was such a fun day. I was so lucky to photograph Lori's graduation. It was a blast.
It was awesome.
It was a special day. This is Avenged Sevenfold.
Nice.
Yeah, concert photography was super fun. I definitely miss doing it. It was one of the more enjoyable types of photography for me. Again, these are the wetlands. I don't know if any of you get a chance to go over there, but they're pretty cool.
I see a couple former Trio students. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just Haskell was such a wonderful experience for me. It's just, yeah, it changed my life for the better. There's the famous Dr. Daniel Wildcat.
Yay!
I love that one.
Is he the one with the guitar?
It's a nice juxtaposition, isn't it? It says puddle of mud. It's the Haskell Cemetery. I actually shot a spread for the New Territory magazine, and part of it was a piece on the Haskell Cemetery. So I was able to do a really interesting spread for that.
So cool.
There's Avenged Sevenfold again, downtown Lawrence. These photos are from a little mini documentary that I did about a gang member in California. And there's a little clip from it on my website as well. So if you ever wanted to check it out, you can watch it there. Puddle of Mud, Avenged Sevenfold, Sugarland, Buck Cherry. I think that's Theory of a Dead Man, 9 Inch Nails. So yeah, but yeah, I can definitely put, I can type it in the chat. My, let me stop so I don't get, okay.
That would be awesome. It's that way we could direct students to that so they could see your work. Did you have a couple of short films that were featured at, I don't remember where. Help me out.
Yeah. So I did have a little short film about Edward Curtis, who was an early American photographer, and he famous for photographing Native American people. So I did a project where I photographed a lot of Haskell students and educators, and I juxtaposed those photographs with some of his old photography. And so it's called Edward Curtis Reimagined, and that's on my website as well. Let me type it right here. That one's kind of fun because you can see like Haskell people.
Yeah, I saw some of that photography that you did with the Edward Curtis thing. That was such a cool idea. That was really, really cool.
Thank you.
I love that concept.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for Haley? Or any comments? Okay, well, if nobody else has anything, that's all that we have for you this evening. Make sure that you visit Haley's website, and thank you so much that you gave us some great tips and some good points for students who are thinking about IAIS, and also just especially students who are just thinking about all different kinds of things that they want to explore or major in. So thank you so much, Haley.
Thank you all so much. It's so good to see you.
It's
It's
good
my
to
pleasure.
see you. Thank you so much. We will see you
Thank
next week, everybody.
you.
Thank you again,
Thank
Haley.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So much.